Hi guys, so today we're going to be talking about gait. So there's a few phases that we go through. 3 joints that we talk about during gait is going to be our ankle, our knee, and our hip. So let's talk about the first phase of gait. So the first phase of gait is our heel strike. So at the ankle, we're going to be doing isometric contraction of our anterior tibialis, so it maintains that neutral dorsiflexion. Also, we have an eccentric contraction of our quads or rectus femoris. It helps with absorbing the force from the ground. And then at our hip, it's going to be our glute max. It's going to be a concentric contraction to get the hip into extension. Our next phase is going to be foot flat. So at our ankle, the anterior tib is going to eccentrically contract to lower the foot down. At our knee, it's going to be the quads again, or rectus femoris. Eccentric to absorb that pressure. And then at our hip, the glute max still concentric contracting to get our hip into extension. Our next phase, it's going to be our stance phase. So this is where we're at our tallest and our most vulnerable. But at the ankle, we're going to have an eccentric contraction of our gastroch and soleus because we're going into dorsiflexion. And then at our knee, there's nothing going on. It's kind of just using momentum. And then at our hip, it's going to be a isometric contraction of our glute medius to keep our pelvis parallel to the floor, and then a concentric contraction of our glute max to keep pushing our hip into extension. Alrighty, so our next phase is going to be heel off. So we're going to have an eccentric contraction of our gastroch, and not eccentric, sorry, concentric contraction of our gastroch and our soleus so that we can get that momentum going. Also, nothing at the knee still using that momentum. And then we're using a concentric contraction of our glute max to continue that extension of our knee or of our hip. Now our next phase is going to be the toe off. Still a concentric contraction of the glute max and soleus to push off, and still nothing at the knee, allows for that momentum still. And then at our hip, it's going to be our hip flexor, so our iliopsoas is going to start with our concentric contraction. Actually, it's going to be an eccentric contraction of the hip flexors to slow down that hip extension. So that's the stance phase. Our next phase is a swing phase. So now we're in early swing. So we get that concentric contraction of the anterior tibialis so that our ankle can get into that neutral dorsiflexion. Our knee is still using the momentum from the toe off. And then our hip flexors, or our iliopsoas, is concentrically contracting to allow for our hip to push through past this stance leg. Now we're in mid-swing. So mid-swing, now we have an isometric contraction of the anterior tib to maintain dorsiflexion so that we can clear the floor. Nothing at the knee. We're still using the momentum from the toe off. And then the hip flexors and iliopsoas are still concentrically contracting to allow for that momentum or to push our hips past or through the swing phase. Now we're in terminal swing. So terminal swing, we still have that isometric contraction of the anterior tibialis to prepare for heel strike. Now, finally, at the knee, we have the hamstrings. They're going to eccentrically contract to slow down the momentum of the flexion and bring our knee into extension slowly. Now at the hip, it's going to be an eccentric contraction of our glute max to slow down that momentum of flexing, allowing our hips to come into extension. And then we start all over. Thank you.